Hello.
Hello. Hi, mate. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, not too
Who,
bad.
who we missing?
We're missing Karl, so I got a special
Missing
button.
you.
Hi, Karl.
Hello, Carl. Why
Hopefully,
are you
he's
not
watching
here?
on the school run. He's picking
Oh,
his kids up from school. It's their first day back
yeah.
today. Simon actually turned up today. Hi,
He
Simon.
did. Simon, what's up? All right. Yeah, so welcome to another show of Cloud Native Weekly. Today is just going to be Richard and myself because Carl is bringing the kids to school, which is probably more important than this weekly show. Let's start with the week. Richard, how was your week?
Yeah, it's been not too bad. It's sort of gone quick and gone slow all at the same time, which is interesting. But it's one of those ones. Yeah, it's just been a lot of AKS work, pod affinity or anti-affinity, stuff like that, just to ensure the workloads are spread nicely across different availability zones and different nodes, that kind of stuff, which is nice. More infrastructure as code, as always, seems to be one of my main things I do. Yeah, it's just been quite a fun week, but yeah, slow and fast at the same time. It's been weird.
All right, nice.
You?
Nice. Yeah, well, for one, I've got the sun here all week, so it's really warm over here. I'm just sweating my beep off. But no, getting along. Past week, no, last Thursday, a couple hours after the show, I tore my hamstring, so that was less fortunate. So I've been sitting again, but the first couple of days sitting was quite painful. Other than that, been doing some bicep, some AKS deployments, and obviously playing with Notary, Gatekeeper, and some other tools that we'll talk about later in the show. And had a meeting with you and Karl about our thing we're going to do for the Azure Back to School.
Yeah, which starts in September, I think.
Yes, starts in September. I think every day new sessions, new stuff popping up. We are about to record our session, and from what we discussed last night, seemed like Back to the Future. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I really like it.
Hopefully, we can pull it off like we've envisioned it in our heads, but we'll see.
If we can, it's going to be epic. If we can't, we'll still make it a nice show. But no, it's as our Cloud Native Weekly group, we're submitting our thing. Well, we already submitted our talk, and we got selected, and we're doing it.
Should be fun.
All right, yeah, and summer holidays coming up for me, so I'll be off for the next 2 weeks. Still be here.
2 weeks.
Be studying some CKA. I'll still be online. We'll still chat.
Hopefully, you take the exam and pass it in these 2 weeks, or are you just going to study for it?
Depending on how I feel next week, I might, but I still want to do it before the end of September. So,
because they have a free retake, so it might be worth trying it, and then exactly what kind of things you need to focus on afterwards.
Yeah, what kind of triggered me to speed up the process? Well, or to stop procrastinating. I think that's the better way to go about it. Is that you got to write your stuff on the wall at QCon for people certified in CK, and I did not. I want that too, so I'm getting it.
Do it. Good.
All right. Other than that, no, it's been a pretty good week. We've had quite some calls. Been doing some AWS stuff as well.
Yes, I forgot about that. We did some AWS stuff. Deploying some clusters and whatnot, which is nice. Some EKS clusters. It's different to AKS. It's nice. It's Kubernetes at the end of the day, so it's all good. It's just a different distribution of it.
Yeah,
more orange.
I think the core more orange. Well, it's good to see different colors for a change, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think the core concepts remain for Kubernetes. Obviously, it's just the thing around it. Yeah. So the managed part of it, it's always the question: how much is managed and how much is unmanaged, and you still have to do yourself. Interesting, but I think it's time to discuss some news. All right.
Cool. So,
Cool.
so it's a bit shorter than normal because Karl's not here, and he usually goes off and does a lot of searching for lots of news. Our first one, hopefully. So the graduation of the CRI-O. I do love that. That's new. So yeah, this is a container runtime, and it's graduated. So kind of like Containerd and Docker back in the days when it was your go-to container runtime on Kubernetes.
Yeah.
I don't do much with this at all. I believe Red Hat OpenShift uses it, but I have not done much with Red Hat, to be honest. So yeah, it's good that it's graduated. If you use it, let us know if it's any good.
Yeah, I think for us it's mainly Containerd, right?
Mm-hmm.
We mainly do Containerd. We did make the shift from Docker to Containerd on AKS. We do a lot of AKS, so obviously mainly Containerd.
It's all managed for you there. Same with EKS. That's on Containerd now as well.
Yeah, it was it wasn't a painful change. It just happened.
No. Yeah,
but lots of people worried about it back in the day. We're going to Containerd, and people are nervous, and in the end, nothing happened. I mean, surely there's probably some scenarios where went wrong.
The biggest thing that changed for me was I was now unable to build Docker containers inside Kubernetes because obviously the Docker sock wasn't there. But there's other ways around that, so it's all good.
I think the biggest impact was probably not for like end users building their software for their end customers on Kubernetes. I think they probably did not notice a lot. It's probably more in the realm of Kubernetes add-ons and Kubernetes and a lot of CNCF projects as well. I think a couple of weeks ago we had Chaos Mesh that actually taps into the container runtime for specific faults and scenarios you can inject, and then that you have to define, or you have to tell it, I'm working with Docker or I'm working with Containerd. That's I think those probably suffered a bit more than the average customer.
Yeah, makes sense. So the next bit of news we have is another graduation, but this one is officially KEDA has got their blog post to say they've graduated now, which is really nice. So I was super happy about this one. No applause for this one?
I was going to say, let's do the applause. There we go.
Love it. So yeah, it's an awesome product. It helps scale your workloads inside Kubernetes. So if you're not using it, go check it out because it can connect into so many different data sources to scale your objects based on, say, queue length or queries from like CloudWatch or Application Insights or other data sources like Grafana and Prometheus. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't. It's super awesome that it's finally graduated. I've been with it from the beginning, and yeah, it's definitely awesome.
And it's almost becoming somewhat of a default deployment, right? I mean, almost every cluster, 100%. Every solution, it gets KEDA because there's so many different scalars for KEDA. There's always a use case. It's, there's a reason why it's default in ACA, right? It's there.
Yeah. Out of the box, which is cool. And we got the last bit of news this week that I could find in my short time was the CNCF tag environmental sustainability has their first working group called Green Reviews, which is really cool to see that the CNCF has taken the environment as an important topic. So this sort of group will help the CNCF projects find out their environmental footprint, basically, is from what I understand of it. So they've just had their first meetup or the first group call. So if you're interested in this, definitely click that link or go to that link and get involved. It's very important, the environment and that. So we all need to do our bit.
Yeah, and we also see more, technical solutions, more CNCF projects or non-CNCF projects on Kubernetes that really focus on environmental sustainability and sustainability in general. So think a good example a couple of years ago already, it was Microsoft itself started deploying or publishing I think the emissions dashboard for your environment in
Yeah.
Power BI. I mean, there's left and right. There's more, more popping up. What I find interesting is, even though we all think this is important, but it was not always top of mind or on the top of the list for every company. Even where we work or what we see on Twitter or on other socials, customers start asking about this, and that number is growing pretty rapidly. I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good sign that, I mean, we can all say it's important, but in the end, the customer also needs to or wants to use it, right? We're always depending on that, and you see that number is growing, and that's good.
Yeah, and one good thing, we just mentioned Kida. Kida has plugins to help with sustainability, so you can scale based on carbon footprints in an availability zone or a data center and stuff like that. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And then obviously you got KubeCost or OpenCost, which can help with sustainability stuff as well. So yeah, all of these tools are coming together to help keep the environment good. The last release of Kubernetes as well was called Plantanetes. So again, environment, green. It's good to see the CNCF is pushing a lot of effort behind this.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if you do this well, it is very likely it's going to save you a lot of costs as well. So there's two wins here. There's two wins here. All right. We named this show "Can I Get Your Signature," which was quite the ride. It was very interesting to get to this point, but we have got a demo, and we will follow up on that next week as well. But first, let's do the intro to 10 Minutes in Tech. All right. Look at that. That was very smooth.
Up and everything, very smooth.
You got it up there right in time. So today we're going to take a look at Notary, and we are going to use Notary to sign your container images. Is this being used a lot? I think by more security and compliance focused companies, probably more enterprises. Yes, definitely. Smaller companies don't see it in the wild too much, to be very honest, but it's also not the easiest thing to do. It can get very complex, but we're going to take a look at it. So if we go by the documentation, and this is where it gets a bit complex, to do the whole process, because you can sign a container, but then in the end, did you sign it, yes or no? But who's going to check? I mean, if you buy a house and sign a piece of paper, but nobody's checking it, why did you sign it? Someone will check whether it's legit, whether you sign it, whether the house is going to be yours, right? So there's more steps in the whole process, and definitely more what we've seen in the demo that we're building and playing with and discussing. There's multiple CNCF projects or even non-CNCF projects, but I don't think we've used them in this demo. No, we didn't. Coming together. It's like that's what I like, or that's what I enjoyed about this, even though I did not get the full thing up and running within the time allocated because it was a lot of research. What I found really nice is that you see that there's multiple CNCF projects, multiple solutions working together. It's not, and that tells you something about the CNCF landscape. It's not separate tools that that don't know about it. They need each other for some stuff. They work together, and that's pretty cool. It's not just
kind of like
something
little
from
microservices all working together.
It's almost. So before we start the demo, Notary or Notation is the command line tool for that. Is what we use for for signing and for verifying that container image. But let's bring up, and I'll add it to this screen. And Notation. Let's get the Notary project up on the screen. There's a lot of documentation on this. Also because it's a very, very, very complex. But Notary is basically just a command line tool that will help you create the policy that you need, that will help you create the certificates, and whether that's going to be self-signed or something you bring in. Those certificates it can generate. It will help you set up that policy, and it will help you sign the image. So it's also something you could run in a pipeline. You could, if you configure your build agent, if you got all the stuff up and running, you could run that in your pipeline, and with person X, Y, or Z, or whatever gates you configure in your pipeline. If all the check marks are green, like, okay, sign the image, put it in the registry. That's what you do with notation, the Notary project. But it's just signing. And today we're just going to take a look at signing. But the whole process itself is interesting, because back to what I said, you sign a piece of paper. Who's going to check the signature? Something else, or someone else needs to check that. So you need another solution for that. And then who's going to, you've got someone checking, did you sign it? Yes or no? And then before you go into the house, are you given the keys? And are you given the right key to open the door? That's another solution. That would be, for example, it happens based on admission controller. So that's where something like, the open policy agent gatekeeper comes in, which is where my challenge was as well. But then before it hits, the admission controller, you try to deploy a container. It's going to pull the container image. The admission controller is going to say, all right, so was this signed? Yes or no? How does it do that? It uses a different tool. One of those tools called is Redify. Or, you've got a bunch of them, basically. But Redify is what we've been playing with, what we still need to get up and running properly, because that is also a challenge on managed Kubernetes clusters. There's already a lot of stuff, configured for you. And that's the challenge I ran into, particularly with the Azure Policy add-on for AKS. It comes with Gatekeeper, but not with the settings that you want to. So you need to get rid of that, and then you need to install Gatekeeper yourself. And I think that's the interesting thing with those managed cloud, because you will have the same thing on AWS, you will have the same thing on Google. A lot of the managed stuff in those managed offerings, so for example with Azure Kubernetes Service, is regarding the control plane, admission, governance. All that stuff is being abstracted away and managed for you. But when you start doing things like Notary and Redify and Gatekeeper, that might conflict a little. That's the little warning, when you get started with this, do your research, test it very well. But for now, we're going to just start with signing an image. So what I have here is my command line. And you can see that we've got an image source, which is hosted in our new repo, where we will put stuff in when we do our Azure Back to School session. But you can already check it out. I put a simple Docker file that I stole from NetMonitor. I put that in there, so we can use that. So that's where my image is. And if we open it up, let's see what it does. It's basically just a Docker file, and the Docker file is just a demo image, and says, well, go to sleep and then start, stop, and do whatever. We don't really need the stuff that's in the image. What we want to do is sign the image and then check if the image is signed, yes or no, and can we identify whether it was signed. So can we give something like Redify and Gatekeeper the information, like, hey, if you look here, it can tell you, based on this, you will know the image is signed by someone we trust, so the image is valid. And that's where you want to get to in the end. With things like Gatekeeper and Open Policy Agent, you want to get to a point and say, all right, I don't accept unsigned images. I don't trust them. I don't want them to be deployed. What you don't want is to have them running and then have a message, hey, someone deployed an unsigned image. No, you just don't want to have them running. That's what the admission is for, right? That's what Gatekeeper does. But we want to get to that point. So what we're going to do is we're going to build that image with Azure Container Registry. And then we're going to use notation to verify whether the image is signed, yes or no, and then sign the image. And then hopefully ACR will be updated with a signed image.
Nice.
Now, what's happening in the background, what notation is going to do is actually go to the Azure key vault. It needs the permissions. You need the permissions on the Azure key vault to see the key that I put in there, the signing key, hey, can I sign this image with that key? So it needs that access. So you can also do that certificate lifecycle management with the Azure Key Vault. You generate, in this case, I'm using self-signed certificates. So I created one, and it's a long process if you go through the documentation, which it's not really worth demoing. But if we take a look at this, it's pretty well documented. It's still a preview, but works like a charm. Yeah, it does. No, it's actually it works really well. This documentation is pretty good. And for notation, what we're doing is using the Azure Key Vault plugin, so notation can talk to Azure Key Vault. I really like that you have a CNCF project, and then hey, let's also write plugins for Azure Key Vault.
So I guess there's plugins for other cloud providers as well, not just Azure.
There's multiple plugins. I did not investigate the other ones because I wanted to do this on Azure Kubernetes Service.
Cool.
If I take a look at this, because this says, all right, notation plugin. So notation is the command line that we're using. So notation, LS plugin, or was it plugin LS?
I think it was plugin LS.
Yeah, there we go. See, you can see that I've got the Azure Key Vault plugin with this version running up here.
Nice.
If we go to documentation, it will help you set up your environment variables to get started testing this. So I just echoed image source. That's what I've been doing. And basically what we're going to do is create that policy, and you can see it here. You create the certificate with the policy that it will show you how to do that. You can put all the stuff in here that you want. It will put in the Key Vault. One thing very important, whatever and whoever is going to access the Key Vault to use this certificate for the image signing needs to have the role or the box, if you're using the classic permissions on Key Vault, to sign certificates or to sign images or to do the signing process. By default, a lot of people go, for a demo environment, do the next finished thing on Azure Key Vault. Hey, let's select the biggest template that I can with all the permissions and go from there. That's not enough. You need to explicitly configure the policy so that you can use the signing steps and then go forward with that.
Good to know.
So I've done all of this, and if you do notification or notation at key LS, you can see, if I make this a bit bigger, that let's make this a bit nicer. That didn't work. Right, so I've got something called a Cloud Native Weekly I/O. That's a certificate that I've put in the Key Vault. This is where it's located, and with notation, I have access to the Azure Key Vault. So now what we want to do is actually build a new image based on the Docker file that we have. What I showed earlier is that we have the Azure portal here. It's just an ACR with a repository Cloud Native Weekly. And what I want to do is, build an image. I've already prepared something. So if we're going to do this, echo image, for example, you can see I've already created a variable that has the tagging in there for the building.
V4.
Sorry?
V4.
Yeah, very bad example to do that. Notation will tell you as well. We will see that in a little bit. We can see that, image source, that was this one. And we can echo the repo, I think, and that's the Cloud Native Weekly repo inside Azure Container Registry. So what we want to do is we want to sign an image. But before we do that, we need to build an image. We need to build an image, and we're going to do that with Azure Container Registry with ACR build. And I'm just going to key up because I've got that here for you. There we go. ACR build. -r ACR name, also a variable. That's where my Azure Container Registry is. The image, the variable. This is my image variable. And the image source is where the Docker file is located that we just looked at. So now we're telling Azure Container Registry, go build this thing for me.
Nice. So that's
Shouldn't take
instead of
too
the
long.
dot when you're doing it locally.
Yes.
So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. If you do a Docker build, you do the dot, you do it locally with the Docker file. This is doing it from the repository. I think, even if you're doing, and it's already done, even if you're doing dev testing or just getting started with something, yes, you will do Docker build locally. But if you know that it's going to ACR at some point and you want to do source control, why not do this and get used? Because this is much easier and faster to migrate over to a pipeline than your Docker build stuff locally. So I kind of like this. So what we've seen here is that it was built. It was pretty fast because there's almost nothing in the Docker file, and it's an Alpine image, so they are pretty small. So now what we want to do is we can use Notary to check, hey, there's an image. There's an image in my ACR. Is that signed, yes or no? And we can do it with notation, and then notation verify, and then image. And remember, we've got that image variable, which points to the image. So if we do notation verify image, it will go signature verification failed. No signature is associated with this image. So we want to sign it, because if we're using Gatekeeper, Open Policy Agent, or any other tool that's going to check on admission, and we're telling it, hey, we've got a policy here, do not allow it if it's unsigned, this image would never deploy to Kubernetes.
Cool.
So, yeah. So before we can sign it, we need to have a trust policy. And in that trust policy, we're basically saying, this is the store I trust. This is the registry that I trust. And then we can do that. So how you do that? And this is when you probably want to do stuff in pipelines and automation, because now we're just doing it manually. We're actually just based on the documentation, we're just doing a cat end of file, and then just stuff the whole thing in JSON file, which this is what we're going to do. You can see there, registry scopes, registry repo, signature level strict, trust stores, and then this is what I'm trusting. And search subject is like, the CN is cloud native weekly, blah, blah, and then, whatever you want to do. And then the question is, can we sign our image? Can we sign it? So what we can do is notation sign, and then click. It's now connecting to ACR and it's going to sign the image. The question is, will it work? But here, you were laughing at V4. It's telling you that stop doing this stuff. Just stop doing it. This is, they're mutable. This is not a good reference. You want to use the actual digest. So now it says successfully signed my image.
And it's giving us the digest now of the SHA-256.
Yes. Yep. So remember that we were not using this best practice. If we now go take a look at our container registry and we're going to refresh this, you can see this is the one we built earlier. And now we can see, hey, this is one with a proper digest and a proper tag. And you can see it's got the annotations for Notary. Image was created.
That's cool.
No, it's now we have
it
signed.
See, it's got the annotations to show you it's signed, which is nice to see.
Yeah. If we go to our V4, this is what you get. So it's very clean. It's a very good practice to do this. And this is now, when you want to deploy to Kubernetes, which we're not going to do now, but if you were deploying this to Kubernetes, now your admission controller can check and connect to the key vault or connect to the ACR and go, all right, so I only allow images that are signed. Is this image signed? And if yes, by whom is it signed? Because that's the other thing. I think there are some default policies that say, all right, do not allow unsigned images. But what you actually want is only allow the images that I signed. So you want to remain in control over that. And if we're now going to do Notary again and verify our image, you can see that, successfully verified it. There we go.
Nice.
We've got our image verified. So those are the verification and the signing process, like you just seen, is pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But what you need to do, and that's more governance and compliance and security inside your company, you need to have a good process for key management, certificate management, the whole shebang. You really want to get that sorted properly, because you don't want to leave these certificates, out in the wild for everyone to work with and then sign the images. But I think that's probably the more complex part of it. For next week, we're going to take a look and see, hey, can we now deny or allow specific signed images using Redify or cosign? They both work. They both use Gatekeeper. So that's kind of how this works. You've got Notary for signing your images, like the person signing it, putting in the autograph, and then verifying whether it was signed. You've got Gatekeeper, which is from Open Policy Agent to manage the admission into the cluster. And you configure the policies there. Do not allow that unsigned image. But then you have the next tool, for example, Redify, that will actually check with the key vault, that will check with the registry, will check with everything. Hey, was this signed? Go back to the admission control and go, we're good to go, or nope.
Nice.
That's the different tools. That's what I mean with different CNCF projects coming together. It's definitely one of the more complex things I'm trying to figure out to make this work well, because it's not just doing, now we're doing a demo and you next finish it. You've got your environment variables there, you grab it from documentation. But to have this whole process automated in pipelines, that is quite the task to do. And we could probably do an hour session on that, going from 0 to 100 with container signing. Yeah, that's definitely something. And maybe we'll do that, because I have not worked with signing container images before, but I'm definitely intrigued in the capabilities. And with the whole container landscape still growing really fast, there's more containers coming every single day.
Yep.
As a company, you probably want to make sure you sign your stuff and make sure that only your stuff is running on your cluster.
Mm-hmm.
So
because I guess you could pull, like, say, your Nginx ingress image to your own container registry. Whilst you're pulling it, you can sign it with your keys and then push it to your container registry. So then when you go to deploy it, it will be your signed container image, which is quite cool. So
yeah, and that means that when you pull it, you can also do the security scanning. So your process could be, but just thinking out loud here because I'm just so excited about this stuff. You could pull like the public Nginx image, because that is what you're using.
Mm-hmm.
Have it in your pipeline, do the vulnerability checks, do the security checks, whatever tools you have there to do all the checking of the image. Once all the check marks are green, have something like notation, sign it, push it through your own ACR, and then you got your own signed Nginx image on your cluster. That's
nice. That's good. Yeah, we should probably look at doing a long session on things like this. Maybe a super special Cloud Native Weekly
on container signing.
Because it's a very important topic. Yeah, thanks for doing the demo. It was really good.
You're welcome. I'm just sad I didn't get the Gatekeeper part to work, because
in 10 minutes
I broke some stuff.
A lot.
Yeah, it was probably too much for 10 minutes anyway. But now I've got an additional week to sort it, and we'll demo that part next week.
Yeah. So maybe next week's session could be Cloud Native Weekly. That's not my signature, or something like that.
Karl, you're listening?
Yeah.
Karl does a lot of the preparations for this show. So, Karl, if you're watching,
we just turn up and talk.
Yeah,
sometimes
nothing.
But
nothing special.
Pretty much, it's all down to Karl.
We're nothing without Karl. We're nothing without you.
Yeah, hopefully he is listening, but we'll see. Anyway, I guess with that, we should probably wrap up, because we're nearly at 35 minutes, or we've just gone past 35 minutes now. So thanks everyone for watching live and on repeat. Hopefully you found it insightful like I did, and any questions, comments, please reach out.
All right. Thank you very much for watching, Richard. I'll see you again very, very soon, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yes.
In a meeting.
After we hit end record.
After we hit end. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
Bye.